Yesterday, the successor to the Clone Wars, The Bad Batch, premiered on Disney+, and, well, it was good to have some new Star Wars to watch. As I did with The Mandalorian, I'll be reviewing / breaking down each new episode of The Bad Batch as they come out, so without further ado, let's dive into the 70-minute premiere of The Bad Batch. The Good. The Bad Batch themselves were really fun and interesting to watch. They were much better this time around in their own show than they were in the arc of the Clone Wars that they appeared in. I mean, they weren't bad back then. I just felt that they were a pretty average, forgettable group of one-dimensional characters. Pretty much everything about Clone Force 99 was a step up from that in this first episode. They gave depth to characters like Hunter and Crosshair. Wrecker wasn't nearly as annoying as he was in the Clone Wars, and he was actually quite funny. And it was truly cool to witness the Bad Batch seemingly not know what to do for once, as they were caught in the middle of the transition from Republic to the rise of the Empire. I said this on our stream, but anything that has to do with Order 66, regardless of which characters are involved, is absolutely incredible. In this case, we followed not only the Bad Batch, but a young Caleb Doom, later known as Kanan Jarrus, and his master Depe Billaba. The result was yet another tense and amazing Order 66 scene. I honestly can't get enough of these Order 66 scenes, and it saddens me that this one will likely be the last one we see for a while. The animation was just immaculate. It seemed to somehow get even better than the animation we saw just a year ago with Season 7 of the Clone Wars. Specifically the environments of the planets we visited and the eyes of the characters. Absolutely stunning. The cameos in this episode were just right. There was no one huge that would make you roll your eyes at the blatant fan service. There were simply several well-placed appearances by certain characters that just made sense. For example, as much as I love Darth Vader, seeing him show up at this point in time, it just wouldn't make any sense. But having Saw Gerrera make an appearance to baby bird feed the Batch some wisdom, that totally makes sense. Having AZ show up on Kamino to assist Omega, again, totally makes sense. This organic usage of characters we were familiar with definitely helped the episode gracefully make the transition from the Clone Wars to becoming the Bad Batch. I was a little nervous about Omega going into the show. I was worried that she'd be a little too much, kind of like how early Ezra and Ahsoka were, but I did like of what we saw of her in this episode. It was basically confirmed that she's an altered Jango Fett clone, and that she possesses a specific gift, similar to how the rest of the Bad Batch all have various gifts. Hers hasn't been super clearly defined yet, but it seemed like she could see into the not too distant future, as she warned the Batch not to return to Kamino, and she also knew of what Tarkin was going to do to Crosshair before it actually happened. This makes me wonder if she's somewhat Force sensitive? Somehow? Either way, I'm interested in exploring her character more in the episodes to come. The Bad. There wasn't much bad in the Bad Batch, but there certainly were a few things that just irked me a little bit. The first of which was Crosshair's turn. I thought it would have been so much more interesting had he made the active decision to betray his brothers and side with the Empire. That would have been an incredibly compelling conflict to see unfold throughout the remainder of the series. But no, he exhibited some effects of the inhibitor chip, and then Tarkin turned it up to 11. So basically, he's been programmed just like the rest of the clone army. I just feel that it was a missed opportunity. His armor's cool though. Look, it was great to have Freddie Prinze Jr. back as Kanan/Caleb, but good lord, he did not sound like a 12-year-old kid. Like, at all. My 12-year-old self wishes I had as deep of a voice as 12-year-old Caleb Doom. It wasn't the biggest deal in the world or anything, but it did take me out of the episode briefly. The pacing was a little slow for the beginning, middle-ish portion of the episode as well, and look, I get it. Pacing is a difficult balance to strike. You don't want your show to be as slow as molasses, and you don't want it to be as fast as The Rise of Skywalker. But I think something to spice up the portion of the episode immediately following Order 66 really would have hit the spot. All in all, I thought that this first extended episode of The Bad Batch was a worthy start to what I hope will be a worthy successor to the Clone Wars. It was fun, tense, exciting, and I'm definitely interested to see what comes next. I personally think that the Batch is headed to the planet where Rex encountered the deserter clone Cut and his family, but we'll just have to wait until this Friday to see that for sure. Overall, I'd give this episode a B+, but now it's your turn to let me know down in the comments how you'd grade this episode. Did you enjoy it? Did you hate it? Were you lukewarm on it? That's such a gross word. Lukewarm. 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 Ugh. Anyway, I'm Zach, and I'll see you in the future.